Good day, y'all. Here I am with my first movie review for you guys, and I'm so excited. Initially, I was concerned with making this video too long, but I believe this length is good, not too long. I want to start looking into the monsterverse, i.e., the world of the kaijus, Godzilla, Kong, Mothra, and the rest of the bunch. My favorite thing about watching movies is when another one or a few movies come out and I find out that they're in the same universe. I love finding that out. Like Agent Argyle and The Kingsman, I believe those movies are connected to some kind of way, which I will look into. Anyway, I love how the stories connect with each other, so let's get into the first movie that comes out in this universe. But it is not necessarily the first movie chronologically. That movie so far is Kong Skull Island. Then I believe parts of the show Monarch are before this, and some parts of Skull Island too. Then other parts of the show Monarch are during and after this current movie that I'm talking about today. So this movie, Godzilla, that came out in 2024, it begins with our main character, Ford, as a boy, and his parents, Joe and Sandra. Joe and Sandra work at a nuclear plant, but an accident happens. This is because a kaiju that was not Godzilla caused a seismic activity that caused the plant to malfunction, and because of either the tremors or like the nuclear reaction that the kaiju was having with the plant, caused something at the plant to malfunction and a reactor to breach. The whole area becomes basically a quarantine zone that's supposedly radioactive, and even years later, it's still quarantined. And ever since the accident, the main character's dad, Joe, has been absolutely obsessed with the quarantine zone and the accident for good reason, because we see that he believes that some things are not adding up and aren't making sense, and he's sure that the government is hiding something from the public. So at this point in the movie, most of the human population, they don't know that the kaijus exist. Only a very small section of the population knows about them. And it's a certain type of scientists, those who are from Monarch, a few others. We have to wait a few movies out to see the whole world find out about kaijus. Anyway, the dad Joe knows that it wasn't an earthquake that caused the plant to crumble. And that's the cover-up. That's the reason why the general population thinks that the nuclear reactor malfunctioned is because of an earthquake. But Joe, of course, was there, and he knows it's not an earthquake. And for years, he's obsessed. Ford, the main character, he grows up and he joins the army and has his own little family. And Joe and his obsession is a very sore subject for Ford. He wants his father to enjoy his grandkid and his life and let the accident in Japan go. So just when Ford returns home from active duty, Japan jail calls him to let him know that his father Joe was arrested in Japan for trespassing in the quarantine zone again. Ford has to go to Japan to get his father out of jail. Also, might I remind you all that Ford and his wife Elle play a couple in this movie, but they also play siblings in the Marvel Universe. But that's neither here nor there. So, why was Joe in a quarantine zone? He needed his old equipment because he noticed a pattern between the day that the nuclear plant meltdown happened and a current pattern of waves, which is called the electromagnetic pulses. And they're similar to that day that the reactor went down 15 years ago. So he is convinced that whatever happened that day is about to happen again very, very soon. Joe and Ford go back into the quarantine zone and notice that it's not radioactive. It is clean air and no lethal radiation is present. One of Joe's theories is correct here. So while Joe is looking for all of his stuff in the house, they get caught again. So these two guys are taken to a place where the scientists are monitoring a kaiju, one that is not Godzilla. Joe was right about this government and that it's hiding something. And boom, this is another one of his theories that is correct. So he's 2 for 2 right now. Well, as it turns out, this facility is actually the old nuclear plant that he used to work for. And eventually, while he's locked up, him and Ford, the kaiju breaks free. Let me pause for a segment of, quote, "If I was in this moment, what would I do?" Unquote. If I heard the roar of this kaiju, I would have been booking it, scared out of my mind, especially when that creature started to crawl up from that hole behind Ford. You know, this is whenever Ford is outside of his little holding cell or the truck that he was locked in, he gets out. I mean, I wouldn't have passed out, but I would have been just running in the complete opposite direction. I don't even know what direction I'll be running. I'll just be running, okay? I would have had to save myself because there ain't no hiding. This thing is too big. It can step on anything, anywhere, anytime. It has too many doggone legs. Like, what else could you do? You can't fight it. That thing is too damn big. But, of course, you never really know what you'll do in a situation like this unless you're actually in that situation, which I hope that I am never in. So just tell me what you would do in that situation. Because of the accident and because of all of the devastation that the kaiju caused, Joe dies from his injuries. The U.S. military is calling this a MUTO, massive unidentified terrestrial organism. Also, they're still calling it an earthquake or still covering up as an earthquake and hiding it from the public again. Like, I don't know how long these people think this cover-up is going to last because these monsters are way too big and way too numerous for these people to hide. Answer me this, y'all. Would you want your government, your military, to lie to you about something like this? They think that it's stopping, mass panic. I believe that people should know the truth, especially if they had humongous monsters popping out the ground. I think people should know the truth and decide what they want to do themselves. I say let the human population know about the kaiju, and they're just going to have to figure out ways to protect their family. So the scientists let Ford know about the Mutos and Monarch, and that basically they've been studying the creature Godzilla for years. They also knew about the other Mutos, and they revealed to Ford that the one 15 years ago that had broken out of its egg, it was looking for the nearest radiation source. And that just happened to be the power plant that his parents worked at. So the scientists were asking Brody about his father's research, and Brody's Ford's last name. They're asking him about his father's research, but he let them know that he didn't listen to his father because he thought his father was crazy. He thought his father was batshit. And, that's absolutely unfortunate because my thing is give your parents the benefit of the doubt, even though they might be fucking up you in your childhood as a child. But, your parents, they aren't always crazy. I said always. But, anywho, the scientists were trying to figure out what was talking back to the Muto 15 years ago. And his father's research had showed that. So they took the remaining files that Joe had in his house that day, and they went combing through it to see what data they can pull from it. Ford leaves to go back to his wife and his kid in San Francisco, but it was not a simple trip because on his way, he stopped in Hawaii, and Hawaii decides that it wants to get attacked by a Muto. This Muto had made its way to the island, and a tidal wave hits Hawaii. It is Godzilla taking all that water so that he can go and deal with the Muto. To be honest, that wave flooding the city was giving me the movie 2012 vibes. I had just watched 2012 after all of these years, and I have decided that I am not doing a review on 2012. Absolutely not. But back to Brody. So, out of the window of the train he was on, he saw that same goddamn Muto. I bet he was like, is this thing following me? I must be following it. But then Godzilla shows up to fight the Muto. So that city in Hawaii is just ravaged. Godzilla and the Muto are beating each other up and just destroying the city. but Godzilla managed to get it away from the people. So Ford decided to join a military unit to get back to the mainland, i.e. San Francisco, home. This is where he's trying to get to. So turns out that there was another spore that the scientists thought was dormant. So the American disposed of the spore in none other than Nevada. The Muto is traveling there, so maybe that spore wasn't so dormant. The military also realized that Godzilla is hunting the Mutos instead of just going on a random rampage just like the animals. Side note, the larger female Muto was headed to the Las Vegas Strip after she popped out of her spore. I'm not sure if they had something nuclear there for her to feed on or if she was just looking for civilization to fuck shit up. So now we have 3 Mutos, the male, the female, and Godzilla. And we also have 3 cities destroyed at the moment. That's Hawaii, Las Vegas, and that city that was in Japan. And they are all currently headed for San Francisco. Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, who has the right idea, believes that Godzilla is there to restore a balance between the Mutos. But, of course, the U.S. government only wants to blow shit up. But back to Brody. He and his squad end up on an operation where they're transporting a nuclear weapon, and the Muto is attracted to nuclear stuff, so it messes up the train that they were using to transport it. Also, the main important thing that we see is that the female Muto has eggs. That is the last thing anyone needs, is for those things to be breeding. Meanwhile, San Francisco is being evacuated because the military is about to detonate a nuclear bomb over San Francisco in an attempt to get rid of all 3 Mutos. So, in the midst of preparing for that, Godzilla meets some San Franciscans at the Golden Gate Bridge, and there are some school buses on the bridge. Keep that in mind for Monarch, the show on Apple TV. If you haven't seen it, I advise you to watch it, along with Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong. All of them are in the Monsterverse. Anywho, the other 2 Mutos arrive in San Francisco as well. The female and male Mutos are attempting to mate, but hell no, we need to stop that. Maybe they can mate in the hollow earth, but not on the planet Earth where the humans live. Hell, not even we don't even want them mating in the hollow earth. So Dr. Serizawa wants the Mutos to fight it out. He believes in nature taking its course. Meanwhile, the military is preparing to drop this nuclear bomb on all of San Francisco. So they send a team of military personnel to skydive into the city to get it done. Brody is part of this team. So it's only the handful of soldiers, the 3 Mutos, and I believe there's a few other civilians that are still stuck in San Francisco, including Elle. And might I add, I love the theatrics in this movie and the cinematography and the effects. I am so happy that our movies don't look like it did in the 1950s. Hell, even 1990s for that matter. Thank goodness for good technology. And these are just some of my random thoughts while I'm watching this movie. Back to Brody. He sees that the Mutos have created a nest and fertilized the eggs. They must destroy the eggs. And I would put that nuclear bomb right up underneath there. And they do. They blow up all of the eggs, and the female Muto rushes over back to her nest to see what's going on. And she is basically going crazy and crying as a Muto can cry. But the female Muto, she doesn't have much time to grieve long because here comes Godzilla hitting her with that nuclear breath. I know people in real life with nuclear breath, and it's just because their breath is kicking. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Not really. So, giant monster fights ensues, and after Godzilla beats one of the Mutos, the male one, he and Ford kind of make a little eye contact for a brief moment of what seems like understanding, almost like Godzilla was thanking him for like the humans helping kill those eggs. So Godzilla continues on with his fight, and he goes off to kill the female Muto as well. Side note, Brody is saved by a chopper just in time for him to not be blown into smithereens as he was trying to get the nuclear bomb away from the city. Godzilla also took a tumble too, And he was napping until the morning, until he got his ass up and left, to everybody's surprise. Because I believe they thought my boy was dead. Excellent into the movie, because that's how I would have taken my leave too. Like, yeah, I do some bad-assery shit, and then I'm a bounce. Y'all don't even need to thank me. I'm just go. And that's what Godzilla did. He's there to mind his business. So that is a quick recap of this movie. This type of movie is right up my alley. I love a good terrestrial yet otherworldly plot where the world is threatened by some kind of force. I also like the diversity of the monsters in this type of movie, so I'm excited. I get to watch all of the other movies again, and I'm also waiting for the newest movie to come out when it seems like Godzilla and Kong are working together against a different force. So yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get into the Monsterverse.